Hello, I'm Shane Strubhart, Director of KHGN Communication Services, and I'm joined today by Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Rosalinda Vargas, and Assistant Superintendent for Business Services, Julio Cavazos. They're here to answer questions about ACISD's Early Exit Incentive. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Julio, we'll start with you. On April 12th, the board passed a resolution about a voluntary exit incentive. Could you tell us what that means?
Sure. With the current economic challenges that face the state, we feel that a voluntary early exit incentive plan will allow our district to properly assess our personnel needs and will allow us to realize some cost savings in personnel salaries. The resignation incentive is capped at 70 professionals and 30 auxiliary staff, hourly staff. The amount is $7,000 or 20%, whichever is less, 20% of the gross salaries, whichever is less.
How much is this going to cost the district, and how much will the district realize in savings?
It will cost the district approximately $640,000, assuming that all 70 professionals and 30 hourly staff take advantage of the incentive. So it's going to cost about $640,000, but in salaries alone, we would realize a savings of about $4.2 million on an annual basis. So the difference between the 4.2 and the $640,000 is about $3.6 million in savings for the upcoming year. However, we'll still realize those savings for the subsequent year. So in the biennium, the 2-year period, we anticipate realizing some savings of about $7.2 million.
Rosie, could you explain the process and how this is going to work?
Sure. We have a communication plan that we've been working on, and we'll be visiting every campus and every department and explaining to our employees that are interested in taking advantage of the Early Exit Incentive Program on a step-by-step what they need to do. We will also have some information available to them online where we will be posting the letter of intent, the resolution, the agreement, so that they can read that ahead of time, so that if they have any questions, they can certainly ask us ahead of time. The HR department will be here at the administration building on April the 30th from 8 to 12, and we will be working with employees on a first-come, first-served basis that are interested in signing their letter of intent on that day, and then we will follow up and meet with employees again one-on-one at a later time based on the first-come, first-served basis.
Now, what if I can't be there on April 30th?
Well, Shane, the resolution is very clear that the employee is required to be there. However, we understand there are extenuating circumstances, and should an employee want us to consider those extenuating circumstances, I recommend that they contact the Human Resources Department, and certainly we will take their concern to the superintendent. However, I have to say again that the resolution is very clear and that the employee is required to be there on April the 30th.
Julio, if I took advantage of this incentive, how will it affect my salary and, more importantly, TRS?
If the individual takes advantage of this incentive, we plan to pay this incentive within 45 days of when we receive the letter of resignation. Hopefully, we can get all the paperwork in. We will pay that incentive in the regular May paycheck, May the 25th. For TRS purposes, incentives typically are not eligible for TRS, so that might not be eligible for your retirement purposes. So that will not be included for TRS salaries. Now, the good thing about that is that you don't pay the TRS, the 6.4% for TRS purposes on that amount. But the resolution states that we're going to pay this incentive within 45 days. Our goal is to pay it by the May 25th payroll.
Now, Rosie, if I'm a person who has already submitted my retirement or resignation paperwork, what are my next steps?
The next steps, if they're interested in taking advantage of the Early Exit Incentive Program, would be to be here on April the 30th. The district chose April the 30th because it's a Saturday, and we wanted to choose a day that is fair and equitable to everyone who is interested in taking advantage of the Early Exit Incentive Program. So their next step would be to really read up on the information that we're going to be providing when we go visit the campuses and departments. Should they have any questions, we'll be there for them, and we can certainly speak to them on a one-to-one if they feel they need to. But their next step would be to be here on April the 30th.
And Julio, our board policy allows a buyback of up to 30 unused local leave days. How does that factor into this incentive?
We do have it in board policy that an individual that retires with a district, is eligible to buy back some unused sick days, up to a maximum of 30 days per employee. Professional staff they receive $100 per day for those 30 days, and hourly staff receive $50 per day for those 30 days. This incentive is in addition to that. So an individual that is retiring with a district and applies for this incentive and it receives the incentive and has at least 30 days of unused sick days can receive up to about $10,000 in monies as they leave our district, $7,000 for the incentive, and a maximum of $3,000 for the buyback of the sick days. Now, we do have that in policy. We do not know how long we're going to keep that buyback incentive in policy. It might be something that the board decides to do away with next year.
There's a possibility that incentive will not be there next year.
A possibility that the buyback incentive might not be there next year.
Rosie, if I resign and I leave before the end of my contract, would I lose the incentive?
Again, the resolution is very clear in that employees who are participating in the Early Exit Incentive Program must complete their contract days for this school year, or if they're a classified employee, they must complete their calendar days. So if they were to resign and leave prior to that, they would not be eligible for participating in this program.
Now, if I take advantage of this incentive, can I be hired back by the district?
Well, the resolution speaks to that as well. We are an equal opportunity employer, and certainly a person who participates in this program and wants to be considered for employment will be considered. And if they are hired within a 5-year period following participation in this program, then they would be required to pay back that incentive money that they received.
Could I come back as in the capacity of, say, a substitute teacher?
Good question. Because the resolution speaks to an employee coming back as a full-time employee. So if they come back to us as a substitute teacher or on a part-time basis, then they would not have to pay back that incentive monies that they received.
Julio, are there any limits to this incentive?
We do have some caps. The resolution has some caps for a certain number of employees. It caps the number of bus drivers that can participate. 3 bus drivers. It caps the number of campus technicians, or is capped at 4. 3 child nutrition employees. 4 high school math teachers. 4 high school science teachers. Those are caps that are part of the resolution. So there is the limit as far as those numbers of employees.
Mm-hmm.
And to clarify, that is to ensure that the school district can continue to function at the capacity that we need to make sure that our schools are able to provide the instruction, our children are able to get to school because we have the bus drivers that we need to get them there. And so that is the reason for these type of caps.
Rosie, you mentioned earlier that there is paperwork that needs to be filled out and that you're going to make that available online. Could you tell us again where and when that will be available?
We are hoping that it'll be available beginning next Tuesday, which is April the 19th. That's when we will be beginning our visits to the campuses and the departments. But that
the board wanted us to go to the campuses and have those meetings with our staff to inform them of the incentive. So the business office and HR jointly are going to be going to the campuses starting next Tuesday. And we're going to set up those meetings with the campus administration.
But the letter of intent that the employee will have to submit will be filled out that day on April the 30th here at the administration building.
Mm-hmm. So it's feasible to have a lot of my paperwork filled out before I arrive on that day. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's feasible for you to be aware of what you're going to be signing and agreeing to on that day. Do we want you to come here filled out or the paperwork filled out already? We'd rather not that you be aware of what it is, but that we will work with you when you come here on April the 30th.
Yeah. We would like to give as much information that we can to the staff so they can make the right decision for themselves.
Is there anything that either one of you would like to share before we close?
I do want to say that we feel that this Early Exit Incentive Program is good news for the school districts, good news for our employees. We do value our employees, and I do want to clarify that the incentive program speaks of 70 professionals. That includes teachers, but it also includes all other professionals as well. So I also want to clarify that our staffing guidelines for our classrooms remain the same. We still have our staffing guidelines for elementary to be at 22:1, for secondary about 25:1, and we will continue to adhere to those guidelines. So I wanted to get that word out so that teachers also understand that we value them, we value our students, and that instruction is going to continue as always, and we hope that everything works out for the best for our employees and for those who are going to be staying with us and for those who are going to be moving on. We wish them the best.
Our goal is to impact instruction the least, and we feel that this incentive will not impact our instruction whatsoever.
Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
For more information about the Early Exit Incentive, go to www.hcisd.org. Thank you for watching.